Hello, everybody. Today, now that I'm finally sitting down to do it right before I go to work, which is, well, I guess I just wanted to get this kind of done while I still have some sort of memory of what I wanted to say about this movie. So today we are going to be reviewing The Black Phone. So right from the very first trailer, I knew that this was going to be right up my alley as far as the horror genre goes. So I was super pumped to go see it, and I kind of have like a movie group going now with three other coworkers, so we kind of just go and see all the movies together, which they enjoy doing because I guess a lot of them before before I came along, they weren't really doing that much during the summer, or going out most weekends. So yeah, kind of I like to stay in during the winter most of the time, but there are obviously going to be a few movies that drag me out in the winter too. One of them being Avatar, obviously. But this movie was definitely my style of horror and had me on edge, uh, like the edge of my seat during the entire movie, because it is very intense and you're not really sure what is going to happen. So it was a kind of a simple concept, but they took a simple concept and made it into something great. So there was touches of the paranormal in there, but it wasn't so much so that I absolutely hated it. Like, it wasn't. It was more like me and my buddy were actually discussing it, and we said it's more like a Clockwork Orange type style than say like an actual like Paranormal Activity movie, which I like. I like the thriller side of things more with the bit of paranormal stuff in it rather than just having a full paranormal movie. I don't know. I just can't. There's very few movies, paranormal movies, that I've actually watched that I've enjoyed. Obviously, one of them being the very first Paranormal Activity movie. After you've read about the story and that the fact that it was, more about him, more about the director and what had happened to him in his own house, I guess. Obviously, they went a little bit over, like over on the theatrics in the movie, but it was loosely based on that. And then the other one that I liked, the very first Conjuring movie was pretty good, I have to admit. But other than that, I don't really think I've really cared enough to go and watch a paranormal movie. It's just not my style. Like, yeah, just too much of it seems a little bit goofy in movies. And I think sometimes they just make the money off of the very first movie and they just continue on going with the series, and then it kind of just spoils the authenticity of the original idea, right? But this movie was very different, more suspenseful than anything else, and we're basically talking about these two kids, Finney and Gwen, played by Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw. I wonder, Jesus, is that one of Tim McGraw's kids? I'm kind of wondering. I'm gonna have to look that up now. do, do, do. I don't know. I don't think so. Otherwise, I think that would have said that. Definitely would have said that she was. If yeah, interesting. Anyhow, so yeah, so it's basically about these two kids, and I guess Madeline has the same, or sorry, I guess Gwen has the same powers as her mother used to have, where where she can see things in her dreams. But I guess eventually her mother um, got too deep into her own powers, and it ended up being the what killed her, I suppose. And her father is an alcoholic, and probably due to the fact that he's dealing, obviously was dealing with a lot when he was with her, and now he's dealing with whatever else he's dealing with. I'm not really sure. We don't get much into his background, unfortunately, which would have been kind of nice to know exactly what his issues were and why he was having them. But the father is played by Jeremy Davies, and his name is Terrence, and oh my god, he's a really phenomenal actor, although I haven't seen him in too much, but anything that he's in, he plays the role beautifully. So yeah, kudos to him for stepping into this role and playing the kind of awkward, abusive father, I guess, in a sense, is kind of the vibe I got from him in the movie. And obviously, he's hurting from stuff that's happened to him too, right? And he's going about. I mean, he loves the kids, but he's going about it the wrong way. Um, in trying to say to Gwen that he doesn't want the same future for her, so instead of just sitting down and having a conversation with her, he ends up hitting her in one of the scenes with a belt, which was one of the more hard scenes to watch for sure. And Finney, who is uh, not the toughest kid, but very resourceful and smart, as we see throughout the movie as he goes along, even though he had help once he was kidnapped by Ethan Hawke character, the Grabber. Um, yeah, I think the most important thing was what we talked about once we got done watching the movie was that when the phone rang and one of the other kids' voices that had died was giving him instructions, he was listening to the instructions. And I know that one of the kids in the very beginning, the kid who actually helps him the most, his name was Robin, played by Miguel Cazares Mora. And I can't I can't quite remember the names of all the kids that died, but I know that one of them was Bruce, and I believe that Billy was one of them, and Vance, and I think Griffin was another one of them, and I know there was one girl that died, so I'm going to say it must have been Donna was the other kid, because there was one, two, three, four, five, yeah, there were 6 kids that died, besides, before Finney was captured. And oh my god, kudos to these kids to step into these roles and just absolutely knock them out of the park. Because, yeah, they are still fairly young. I think she's 14 and he's 15, or maybe the other way around. I can't quite remember. But, yeah, they're not very old. They're still teenagers. So, yeah, and I think this is probably like their first big role. And as far as Ethan Hawke's character goes, I would say this is probably the darkest role he's ever played, and probably one of his best roles or best movies that I've ever seen him in, because he really, really did a good job on this character and made it creepy as hell, with the mask and everything else. And one thing that I kind of picked up on it, I guess subconsciously, when I was watching the movie, but never really even thought of it, as it's just one of those things that kind of blows by you, and then when you see it afterwards, you're like, oh my god, the mask was actually changing throughout the movie. So I don't know whether that was like something something the kid was seeing, or he had 3 different masks, or whether the mask changed based on his mood. I'm not really sure, because at one point it had no mouth, so I don't know if this is supposed to be like a kind of subliminal message. And then the next time he comes down, he's smiling, and then at certain points the mask is frowning. So when I watch that again, I'm going to have to pay attention to what scenes the mask is doing what, because when he first kidnaps Finney, he has absolutely no mouth. He's just talking through the mask. And then when he comes back down the second time, it's smiling. And then I think when he has the belt, when the one kids are telling him that he's got to play the game in order for the Grabber to beat him, and the Grabber can hear the phone as well and hear the voices, but he tries to ignore it because he said that phone hasn't worked since he was a kid. So yeah, what was I going to say there? Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. I was talking about the mask, and then I said about the... Damn it. Yeah. Oh, right. He has to play the game called Naughty Boy. I don't know why it was called Naughty Boy. I'm assuming probably because most of the kids that he grabbed were boys, I suppose, and maybe he treated it as some sort of competition. I guess he did have a brother, and the 2 cops came to confront the brother, and I wasn't even thinking about that being his brother when they first came to the house. He just said, my brother's gone, and kind of, that was the end of the conversation. But I guess his brother was played by his brother's name was Max, played by James Ransone, and the two main detectives in this movie were Detective Wright and Detective Miller, played by E. Roger Mitchell and Troy Rutseel, I believe is how you pronounce his name. When they first go to the school to confront Gwen, she really tells them off. Let me just say that. Oh my God, that was one of the funnier scenes where she just says, "Really, you think I'm the grabber? Like, you're gonna tell me based on my dreams that I'm out on the streets grabbing children off the streets?" And her powers were, yeah, to see in her dreams, and she doesn't really get like a strong dream connection until her brother is captured, which I guess kind of makes sense because they seem really close. So I'm assuming they have a pretty strong connection between the two of them. And she's searching the entire time while he's trapped in this basement, which, by the way, is soundproofed, so nobody can hear him scream. And even the grabber can't even hear what he's doing in the basement when he's doing it. So he digs the hole. He almost gets out through the freezer at one point, like the meat freezer. Tries to get out through the window, but to no avail. Ends up just pulling the grate off the window. And then uses that very resourcefully at the end of the movie to actually kill Ethan Hawke's character. Uses the phone to beat him up. And then then just strangles him to death and snaps his neck, and then walks out of the house across the street from where the police are. And I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. I thought maybe Ethan Hawke's character was still alive and he was going to walk out and get shot or something, but I guess none of that really happened. So, yeah, I kind of wasn't sure how this movie was going to end, whether it was going to be a good ending or a bad ending, but luckily, at least Finney made it out alive with the help of, obviously, the other dead children. So, yeah, it was very strange that he had one house where he kept the kids, and then he bought the house across the street to go and bury them. So it's a good thing when Finney ran away that he ran down the street and not trying to go across the street to the house, to the other house, because that would have just been his death right there, right? And I think maybe that was kind of the game maybe the grabber was trying to play, because obviously when you run, you're just going to run to the closest house, right? And then he's beaten you, so now he can kill you. Although he did say he was going to let Finney go at certain points, but I don't think that was ever going to happen. He was just going to make Finney feel comfortable enough until, yeah, he killed him. And then when his brother discovered that, it might be the house that he was in that is where he was keeping Finney, yeah, unfortunately his brother ended up being killed because, yeah, while Ethan Hawke's character was out getting the supplies, I'm assuming to come back and kill Finney, that's when his brother discovered that, oh my God, my brother is the grabber, and I am literally in the location. And when he goes to open the door at first, he hesitates, and I was like, maybe don't do that. Maybe just wait and see what your brother does when he comes back. But it was already too late by that point. When he found Finney, he goes, oh my God, trying to tell Finney the story of how he found him, and Finney goes, "No, let's just get out of here." But Finney sees the grabber coming down the stairs, and then his brother just gets absolutely annihilated with an axe. So it was just absolutely crazy, that scene. And then and then obviously we know that Finney ends up escaping, and the kids are reunited, and I think the father finally does apologize at the end. He does give the kids a "I'm sorry" and kind of, I think he's going to straighten out his life sort of thing, was kind of the foreshadowing there. So at least that's good, because yeah, I, I really want to see this family, obviously you want to see the family kind of come together and the father get rid of his burdens and really start to take care of the children. And I think it was like the father needed a serious event for him to kind of become grounded again. So I think that was important. And other than that, I don't really think there's much I can say about the movie, other than some of the very intense scenes where obviously the kids are telling him, Finney, what to do, and he has to go upstairs and unlock the door while Ethan Hawke, or while the grabber's asleep. And holy crap, it's just, yeah, there was a lot of intense scenes. Like, my leg was just shaking uncontrollably during the entire movie because it's just like that intense. Uh, so yeah, other than that, I think that's pretty much all I can say about this movie because I've been talking for, well, 15 minutes. Yeah. I guess this was kind of a shorter movie, though, as opposed to some horror movies where it feels like it's dragged out. But this story was really done well in a shorter amount of time. Because what is the runtime on this movie? An hour and 43 minutes. So yeah, it's. I guess it's a regular length movie, but yeah, definitely really good. And they don't. I guess they don't really let you know that he's a child killer until Finney is actually in the house. He's just kidnapping the kids. And the way he did it was insane too, with the black balloons and then just throwing them in the back of the van. And yeah, it was just crazy that he was able to get away with it right in broad daylight. And they really did a good job on the makeup, I would say, with Ethan Hawke because it doesn't even really look like him until you see the scenes, some of the scenes with his mask off, and you can kind of tell. But yeah, I think the long hair was really the kind of what throws people off the most and being like, wow, that's Ethan Hawke in that movie? Like, that's crazy. I've never seen him play a role quite like that. So, yes, and I guess I should give my rating of the movie. So I rated this movie an 8 out of 10, same as what I gave Elvis, because I think they were both, I mean, they're very different in genres, obviously, but yeah, they were both the same. They both felt the same to me as far as ratings go. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for this movie. And if you are a fan of the more thriller horror side of things, I would say definitely go check this out in theaters if you get a chance, if it's still out when this review comes, or check it out wherever it's going to be coming out digitally, because yeah, and heck, watch it with the lights off, because I think this is one of those ones that you can probably survive with the lights off and not be too uh, terrified after watching it. Although it is more of a kind of like a feels real, like it could actually happen kind of story, and those are the kind of horror movies I like besides the slasher genre, obviously. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.